Episode 7. Hello, Adam. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you, man? PowerFall project back at it. Nick Powers, how are you?
Adam Fallert. I'm doing really well. Adam Wynn, aka
It's
many
aliases. It's my married name. I accepted my wife's name. Real tough guy.
We have that running joke in our house too. I sometimes associate or carry my wife's last name because there's some days where she's definitely the dominant one in the house,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and I know when to step out of the way.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But dude, good to catch up with you again. As I was telling you before we started the recording here, I look forward to our weekly catch-ups, and I don't think this would work this well if we were like roommates or if you were my neighbor, because
then we'd be sick of me. Yeah, for sure. You'd be tired of me. Yeah.
But no, it's fun to have a consistent weekly catch-up and just
Mm-hmm.
keeping each other accountable, checking in on each other, and just shooting the shit, just getting
Yeah.
ourselves out of our normal daily grind. And
You're my accountability buddy.
I'm hugging you through the microphone.
That's sweet. So let's give a little show cheers here. I'm cheersing you through the phone.
Cheers.
What are you sipping on today?
You know, we're still milking those leftover Corona seltzers. We're not big drinkers right now. We go through, phases, and we've been kind of weaning off it. So we're still milking those leftover Corona seltzers.
I have yet to have the Corona seltzer. I've been doing, I was saying when I was in Palm Springs, I had a couple of the Trulies and a couple of White Claws, which I had never had any of that seltzer before. And actually, on a hot summer day, I actually threw some ice in it, and it wasn't terrible. So
A little splash of vodka, and they're good.
See, there you go. I have a Johnny Walker Double Black on a big cube. That's kind of my go-to. The Double Black's nice because it makes me feel like I'm more sophisticated because it's super peaty. And dude, it's a great little sipper.
Yeah, we differ in that. You're more of a peaty guy. I like that smoke. But that does change though. That does change from time to time. For the last couple of years, I've been kind of on that charcoal smoke. When I drink scotch. But I love how meticulous you are with your ice cubes. You have a spherical ice cube tray, and you take that very seriously.
Yeah. Well, we have the ball mold that will give you the ball, and then we have the big cube, and I like the big cube. What's funny too is I understand that, when you put ice in your scotch, it waters it just a touch, but I'm a temperature guy. I like the temperature, just a nice cold scotch, and I'll take a little bit of water. But that's all right.
So what are we talking about today?
Well, dude, okay. So last week we did the questions from our wives. How did you feel about that?
It was good. It was a necessary, I think, element to the podcast to kind of give some context about who we are, what our lives look like.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to talk about some just some bro stuff.
Yeah, right. I mean, it was, and you just went super sappy, so I'm gonna have to pay for that one, I'm sure.
I took that into consideration today when I adjusted my list today.
Yeah. Okay. So today, what we're doing today is top 5 role models, dead or alive, that you would like in your lives. And did you throw your list together? You're ready to go?
Yeah. I want to kind of figure out hear a little bit more about how you put your list together and kind of what you took into consideration when putting together your list. Cause mine,
right.
I'll share after you, but mine was a floating list, I'll say.
Yeah. Okay. So good question, because this is what I did. So, I took a walk with my wife last week when we first thought about doing the role models one. And so we're going for a walk. So we walk before we go for a run. So we usually do about a 2.5 mile run, but you have to walk about quarter mile, half mile before we can get to the spot where we want to actually run. And it's kind of a cool talk about what's going on. What are you thinking about? What I'm thinking about, kind of time. And one of the things I brought up was this topic. And I was like, how are you, because she's a person that has mentors in her life, role models, all that kind of stuff. She has vision boards. She's really clear on those things. And so I wanted to kind of pick her brain a little bit, because, the way I think about these things, I've got these little pockets of knowledge in different areas of role models and experience and things like this. But her mind and the way that she thinks is much more linear and almost a top-down approach, if you will. And so I asked her, I was like, how is it that you're coming up with role models? How is it that you come up with mentors in your life and things like that? So she had a little bit of like a 1, 2, 3 criteria. And I stole a good chunk of that. And so the way that I came up with it was a little bit of a 3-pronged approach, which was to have a connection with, something in common or like interest, right? Number 2 would be they have to have gone through whatever it is that I'm trying to learn, or they're an expert of, right? So either it's somebody who went through something, a survivor, or someone that went through the muck and has come out of it and understands now, and they can pass on that knowledge, or an expert in the field, right?
Yeah, this is so Diana, by the way. I love
know,
this
right?
criteria.
Right?
Yeah. But this is also
Right.
also very much my wife too. She loves people with a story. She's like, every time she finds someone new, she's like, "Oh, babe, this person really went through it. They got a story." I'm like,
Yep.
do I really have to go through the trenches to have a story? Or
right. Can I just
have a story? Yeah, can I just like them?
Yeah.
So that's criteria 1. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So 1 was having the connection or some common interest. Number 2 was they've gone through it or they're an expert in the field, right? And then number 3 was like, would we get along? Was kind of her part of it. Like, is there going to be a back and forth? If I don't like this person, and there's not a good connection, and then so that makes sense, right? And then they have an interest in me getting better, right? So that's interesting too, because you can have someone that actually has a genuine interest in you becoming better. And now this was mentor criteria versus role models, but having somebody that has an interest in you progressing, and that can even be somebody that would give you tough love, and not necessarily wanting it to be all warm and fuzzy, but still getting you to progress. So that was kind of what I came up with for a criteria. Now, do my 5 all fit that criteria? I don't know, but anyway, it was a good starting place. How about you?
That's good.
How did you come up with yours?
Well, I don't quite have the structure that you did, but what I did notice right off the bat as I was scribbling down notes is that mine tends to seem to be like a floating list. If I have to narrow it down to 5, it's a floating list for sure, because it really depends on where I'm at in my life.
Yep.
What I'm working on, what stage of my growth I'm at. Am I a single dude? Am I a married guy? Am I just starting a business? Did I just move?
Yep.
Is it a workout themed guy? Because I've shifted careers, as so many different times. I've gone from sales to fitness, now to photography and whatnot. So there's a lot of back and forth, and the couple that kind of also scratched the itch on the photography, or excuse me, on the hobby side of things. There's a couple sentimental things in there too. I thought about, after last week's sentimental episode and getting all heartfelt, I thought about just giving you a BS list here. Like number 1 is my Lord and Savior Jesus. I like to model myself. Obviously, I'm a Christian. I love to model my life after that, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you every single day I'm perfectly trying to aspire. I'm going to give you my real list. My real list.
Right.
So
I'm glad we're not in the same room, because you'd be struck down now.
Anyway. Dalai Lama, yeah. And,
right. Okay, so I have my 5, but I do have some honorable mentions and some other stuff. So should we just get into this?
Yeah. How did you number yours, by the way?
I did 5 to 1, but to your point, like, they can be a little bit fluid based on where you're at in your life, all that kind of stuff too. So this is going to be fun. So is that how you have it? You have 5 to 1?
Definitely. Yep. And 5 to 3 is kind of all over the board. And then I'll definitely have a couple honorable mentions. Yeah. You want to kick things off?
All right, let's do it. Okay. So number 5 for me, This was whittled to this point from quite a few that was on the list, and so okay, we'll just go with it. John Lennon from the Beatles.
I love that our lists are going to look drastically different. I love this, man. That's what I love about friendship.
Yeah, man. So I think if the criteria is a role model, dead or alive, that I would want in my life. So I look at somebody who is insanely creative. He's absolutely brilliant. I mean, he had an IQ of 165, and he was about helping the world heal. He was a peace advocate. Also was on the top of the charts for 15 years. So, and just an incredible human being. Believed in something so much that he was actually murdered in the process of living that journey. And regardless of which way his journey was going, to believe in something so much that you were doing that, and then to also be phenomenal at it, he's number 5 for me.
Is this pre or post Yoko, John?
Definitely pre. I mean, you can most of his actual.
I'm 1,000% with you, by the way.
I know,
I like to jab at you a little bit.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, most of his, the contributions to the world, not necessarily musically, was post Yoko, but yeah. So,
true.
I would think he could probably teach me a lot about, having a life partner that is a strong, independent Asian female too. So maybe post Yoko as well. All right. Get it off me. Your turn.
Too funny. So this last one came about during the pandemic when I started to run. We couldn't go to the gyms. The gyms were all closed down. And so I don't run to music. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure why. That never really inspired me. I just can't get into running with music. I need someone talking at me. I need a good upbeat podcast about a topic that's topical, or I need an audio book. But the audiobooks are kind of hard to find because you got to find one that can get you motivated to run, 4 or 5 miles, whatever it is.
You need a nice, exciting, soothing PowerFall project.
Exactly,
in your ear.
Yeah. 120 beats a minute. Yeah, whatever. I can up the speed on these podcast edits, by the way, too.
There you go. Just pump it in people's living rooms.
So I went Grant Cardone.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah, I found his books. I burned through all of his audiobooks now. For the time of which where it's so easy to feel sorry for ourselves in this pandemic, and everyone's losing their job, and nothing worked out the way we thought it was going to be. I need that guy in my ear just being like, come on, just get up, just make one more phone call, make one more, text, one more inquiry.
10X, brother, 10X.
More action. Yeah, 10X. Yeah, I wasn't some of the one that really connected with me. Shoot, I'll have to drop the link in the comments down below. But the latest book he wrote during I think this was the 2008 economic decline, and boy, it was so applicable to today. It was just all about taking action, and it's a audiobook that I hit restart as soon as it ran out.
Yeah.
But I need that guy in my life right now, just kind of yelling at me a little bit, just take more action, be hyper positive, optimistic, do what everyone else is undoing, be unreasonable. If you want something, just go out and get it. And it's an expression that I was able to teach my wife. My wife is of Korean descent, so there's some certain white phrases that I've used. I'm sure you've come across this too, that just don't connect. I told her, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. She's the best at that. She was like, what the hell are you talking about?
Right.
But yeah, he's the best at that. He's the squeaky guy because he gets all the grease.
It's true. No, that's a great one. I do really like it. I've only listened to one of his books, and it was the 10X. So
I started with that one.
Yeah, you gotta throw down the books that you like in the comments too.
For sure.
We can get that too.
It's very applicable to where I'm at with my video business, my photography business. Honorable mention, kind of in that same category. Back when I was coaching fitness, this would have been like number 1 on my list. Is Todd Durkin. He's a fitness coach out of San Diego.
Okay.
Ex-football player, just one of those things. He would have fit Diana's criteria to a T. You know, he went through a story.
Right.
He, got out of football, was, petering around trying to figure out how to start his own company, and one thing led to another, and just hard work, hype guy.
Yeah.
Just puts in the work, and very energetic guy. He'd be almost like the Grant Cardone of fitness.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So that was an honorable mention for me. But just like I said, as my life changes, my list changes.
Yeah, I'm going to hold on to my honorable mentions just because they might be a couple that you hit on as well. So
I've got a lot.
I figure we'll blast a couple of those out as well. Number 4 for me, and this, so to your point of what you were talking about before we got into the lists, which was, it depends on where you are in your life. And this gentleman was phenomenal. Now, this doesn't totally fit in my criteria because I would probably hate him. Like I would probably, if this dude was my mentor or, my role model, and actually had interaction with him, his attitude and style, I probably wouldn't enjoy. However, it would probably get the best out of me. And so number 4 for me is Steve Jobs. And I just love the way that his mind works and where we're at. You and I are both entrepreneurs. We're married to entrepreneurs, and we want to hustle and we want to work hard and we want to deliver the right things to the right people and things like that. And so Steve Jobs for me is really, really good. I mean, he was such a force. Now, and maybe his family and his coworkers didn't maybe love him all that much, but at the same time, the way that he thought about business and essentially hiring good people and then getting out of their way, don't micromanage people like that. And I wrote down a quote that he said, and it's not his most famous quote, but this one is, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life." And that one's resonated with me in my life right now. Is I've tried to do all the right things all of the time, and we've talked about this. Where am I placating to people? Am I trying to be the people pleaser? All that kind of stuff, instead of just being me. And then people either accept it or they don't, and let's go forward with the people that do. And I just So number 4, Steve Jobs for me, man.
That's a solid one. I love, as you say the description of the person, I love trying to guess who it is, because you and I are good friends, but we're so different in so many ways, and that's what's beautiful. And it's Steve Jobs, solid pick.
Cool, man.
Solid pick. My number 4 is, again, very contextual to where I'm at in my life. I found this gentleman through the Joe Rogan podcast. I love what he has done in starting his own podcast, and that is Mr. Andy Stump. Andy Stump is a retired Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 6. He also is notably one of the world's pioneers in the squirrel suit jumping. Have you seen that?
Oh my gosh, the Red Bull squirrel suit.
Yeah, he's kind of since put that on hiatus. I think per the request of his wife. But long story short, he started a podcast, and he definitely through this pandemic is one of the people that really helped me keep focused on just what's right in front of me. Obviously have a big picture plan, but just take things one step at a time. He always says, keep your world small. He always uses a description when he was going through boot camp, buds, Hell Week, whatever they go through. He says, don't focus on the 7 days you got to get through. Focus on just getting to the next meal, because he tells you that, they have to feed you every 6 hours. So if you can just kind of chunk your life into those little 6-hour breaks, those little 6-hour segments, that stood out a lot to me, because there's so much coming at us, so much stress going on. But if I could just focus on one task, have an overall plan, but if I could just focus on one task at a time and just get those wins, they start adding up,
That's really good. I mean, it's the eating the elephant, one bite at a time kind of
for sure
mentality, which I struggle with sometimes. I want to focus too far ahead and get lost in the weeds sometimes. And that's a really good one. I like that. And say his name again.
Andy Stump, STUMPF.
All
he
right.
also is another one of those people too. Not all these role models are the best 365 days out of the year, 24/7. They also have their own blunders, and he's one of the people that really kind of I look up to when he talks about owning his own mistakes and owning his shortcomings.
Right.
He talks about that not openly on the podcast, but he touches on it enough, and I love how he opens up his life, but he's very cut and dry about it. Okay, this is what I'm willing to share, and this is my shortcomings. But because some of my shortcomings involve other people that aren't here to represent themselves, I'm not going to expand on that. He has on quite a bit of military people, but he has on a couple other people on his podcast, and it's just a very he's not a Ryan Seacrest when it comes to talking.
Right.
And that's what I like about him. He's just very, this is what it is. This is how it goes. And that kind of helps keep me level headed too.
Well,
I don't need
a
Raz guy, I don't need a hype guy.
Yeah. I like that. Well, I mean, and we've kind of talked about this a little bit too, and he's not on my list, but a guy like Tiger Woods, like, the life that he's lived and the competitor that he is and all the success and all that kind of stuff, he is an incredible competitor. And so like, as far as like learning a competitive edge and how to compete and all that kind of stuff, like he would be an incredible mentor. Now, granted, he made a couple of mistakes, right? And he led us to believe that he was one kind of guy while he was doing another thing. But now he's probably a guy that is worth most certainly listening to because he's come through some stuff,
dude.
And so like, and he could probably talk about, okay, well, this was what it was like having all of my personal life shattered in front of me, in front of everyone, and then have falling from grace from in the sports world and all that kind of stuff, and then injuries, and then trying to come back. Like the guy now is probably much more dynamic as a person and a speaker than he ever was. So that's interesting. I like that one. That was a really good one, dude.
Yeah, a little off the wall there, but it's again contextual to where I'm at right now. And I wouldn't say he bumped anyone off my list, but basically Tim Ferriss was someone I looked up to years ago when I was trying to get in that entrepreneurial mindset.
Yep.
Tim Ferriss was the person that really helped me figure out that I love trying to build businesses and I love marketing and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
He's not on my list currently just because right now a lot of his stuff that he's putting out there is really for people that are like more steps ahead of me than I think than I am right now. And not that it's not relatable, but it's just the stuff that the people that I have on my current list are people that I'm like drawing from on a daily basis. So,
that's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. But that's good.
Honorable
criteria
mention,
too.
Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, man. Tim Ferriss is good. Number 3 for me, this guy I had personal connection with. Now, so far on my list, everybody is no longer with us. And this third one is following suit. But this was one of the most phenomenal people I've ever met in my life, and would light up a room, was charismatic, was a teacher, was a kind heart, was compassionate, as well as a tough ass. And he would be on you about things. But so this is my former coach in college, is Frosty Westering. Now, Frosty in the Pacific Northwest, small college football coach, won championships, was a 300 game winner, but he would be the first one to tell you that, we don't think about that. We don't worry about that. We achieve excellence throughout and win anything that you can control, you give best effort, you make the big time where you are. I mean, he was just a phenomenal human being. And so if I could get him back in my life as a role model, I would take it any day.
It's funny, the imagery that it gets conjured up as you describe a guy named Frosty. I just picture some guy that, if I'm down in the dumps, I'm sitting on the football bleachers overlooking the field. Maybe my girlfriend just broke up with me. It's one of those scenes out of a movie where, who sits on the bleachers at 10 o'clock at night with the field that's lit up. I mean, why are the lights on anyways? You're just sitting there looking at the field. But he kind of strolls up out of the fog there, and he's like, kid, it's going to be all right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's that guy.
Says okay, that's beautiful. What a beautiful name. Was Frosty a nickname, or was that his actual name?
Yeah, his first name was Forrest. And so it
another epic. Forrest would have been good too.
Yeah. But so what's interesting too is I got him in the grandpa years, right? So he was head coach, but his son was actually the offense coordinator and was running a lot of the offense and things like that. But Frosty was definitely the sports psychologist, was the leader, was this, just instilled servant leadership and picking up your buddy and taking care of each other and building each other up, and iron sharpens iron and all that stuff. And he's a published author. He's got a couple books out. The one that I love was Make the Big Time Where You Are. But yeah, I mean, but also, so he was in the Marine Corps, and then he played ball. He was a young coach at one time. Obviously that was before my time, but I got more of Grandpa Frosty versus, but I've heard stories and watched some videos and things of him, when he was a little bit younger and a little bit more fiery. But so my experience was a little bit different than what a lot of other people had. But that's what happens when you're in it for that many years and had that kind of success.
Solid pick. Very sentimental. I like that.
Yeah, man. I think everybody could benefit from having Frosty in their life.
Everybody needs a Frosty. I was trying to think of a good catchphrase for that. That might be the title of the episode right there. Everybody needs a Frosty.
That's number 3 for me. So we still got a ways to go. Number 3 for you, sir.
All right. Hailing out of Denver, Colorado, former college football player, UFC fighter, podcaster, stand-up comedian, TV show host, Brendan Schaub.
Oh, yeah. Well, if he's making a couple of your lists now.
He's made 2 of my list now. And the reason why I put him on my list is I love watching people's journeys. He went from not a failed career as a fighter, but, not a storybook career as a fighter. I picked up on him when he was still fighting in the UFC. I watched as that kind of fizzled out, and I watched how he took a pipe dream. The pipe dream was, I've always wanted to be in showbiz and be a stand-up comedian, but that seems so far-fetched because I'm a 230-pound bro. I'm a football player. Who wants to see this guy on the Tonight Show, hosting the Tonight Show,
right?
Or on Saturday Night Live, which he idolizes. But now he's turned a career after starting a podcast with Brian Callen. He's turned his career. He now hosts two podcasts. One UFC fight show for Showtime. He's a stand-up comedian, and he has just ran with the entrepreneurial side of the business as far as marketing himself. I know he owns part of a CBD business. He has multiple t-shirt companies. Just endless amount. I think he has a coffee company as well. I just love seeing people who understand that there's an audience out there that want to support you, and he's been very transparent about his journey. And I've supported him in several different, things with the products he's been putting out there. They're good products for one, but also two, I like seeing someone who took nothing and built something out of it. And
yeah,
he's just a cool dude.
Man. Dude. And you exposed me to him with the other list that we did, just as far as like impactful athletes. And so now he's made 2 of your lists. So that means that I need to put some more effort into learning more about him.
And what is has been described, or one of the things that described him is why he became successful in the stand-up world and also in podcasting too, is he took that athlete's mentality and put it into stand-up comedy. Stand-up comedy is something that you need to, from what I heard, you need to write constantly. You need to dedicate time to sit down there, pen and paper, and it's not just winging it. So he takes that discipline and drive.
That's an excellent point.
Stand up, yeah, and as well as anything else he's touched, in the last 4 or 5 years, and he's also the same age as me too, so it's kind of relatable. You see someone that's going through it.
That's a really good point, because even the best in the business, Jerry Seinfeld, spends time every day writing jokes.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a consummate pro, and he's doing that every day. That kind of discipline. So that's very interesting call out. Absolutely. Good one, dude.
Honorable mention, a little sentimental. This would be kind of like my Frosty would be my grandpa. I really looked up to him. I saw him understanding his life. He's been through so much. He was in the Navy when he was fresh out of high school, met my grandma, married her, then had a stint with alcoholism, which he finally overcame. He has always loved airplanes. I love people that pursue their passions and figure out a way to pay the bills by pursuing their own passion. He always worked in the aircraft industry. and he spent the later years of his life up in Northern California on a private airstrip up in the absolute boondocks. I mean, it took us 13 hours to drive there from Seattle, and I think the last 6 were just off I-5, grinding through the hills, the foothills, to the point where we were, in the middle of nowhere. No, obviously this is way before cell phones, but I some of my most fond memories were up there watching him just have his airplane hangar, have his garage, have all his little toys that he was working on.
Yep.
And that's something I aspire to. I want to have many hobbies. I don't want to be buttoned down to a job. I want to always have my own projects going on. And I saw the way he treated my grandma, and I saw the way he bowed out at the end of his life, and it was very honorable. I really liked him a lot.
Man, that's awesome. That was a good one. I'm gonna tip my cap to that one, and I'm gonna piggyback with my personal one is actually to my mother. My mother has been a role model to me my entire life. But you talk about what some of the criteria that you talked about of finding a way to make money doing what you absolutely love, and she was an educator her whole life, and graduated high school and college early and got into it, and was from day one was in working with kids with special needs, working her way up into administration, where she was administrator for special education. Actually worked towards getting her doctorate in leadership, and became a consultant for school improvements. And like, she was a person that worked her tail off to make this world a better place for children. And like, that is just, my hat's off to her. She's just an incredible human being, and also a very well-rounded individual that, would also cook for us at night and take really good care of me. And so we could talk a whole podcast about her. So anyway,
I was gonna say your mom's incredible, by the way, and I love I envy the relationship you have with your mom. Yeah. We had a chance to get to know her at your wedding, and she's a beautiful individual.
Yeah, man. Well, I will. She better listen.
Hello, Adam, Mom.
Yeah, Mama P. All right. So we are. Where are we at? We're not number 2.
Shoot, number 2. What do you got?
All right. So this is. So I just did Frosty. This would be one of Frosty's mentors, which was a phenomenal, if not the best college basketball coach of all time. He's number 2, and it's Mr. John Wooden. And I use his quotes, if not daily, definitely weekly. I mean, the other day, I think earlier this weekend, I told my wife, I said, well, be quick, but don't hurry. I mean, that's
I've heard that. Yes.
I mean, that's one of Wooden's absolute. And I'm like, and I get down, and she's like, yeah, I get it. I'm like, no. Let me mansplain this one, because I want to talk it through. She's like, no. I understand. I'm like, no. I'm going to explain it because I want to. It's just, he was so good. He was such a mentor to so many different athletes at different times. And like, you think about, he's coaching Lou Alcindor, who became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was one of the best of all time. He was at UCLA during those 70s runs. I mean, that's his. He was just stringing together championships, as well as being a tremendous sculptor of men. And he's an author. He was, one of the original in practice sports psychologist type coach. And it would be incredible to have him in my daily life. And I think about all the players that played for him and talk about those times there, and how it's just had incredible long lasting impact on their life. And similar to Frosty's on mine, but yeah, John Wood, number 2.
Wait, so I'm, as someone who's ignorant to this genre of sports, where did he coach?
At UCLA. So
UCLA, okay.
I believe it was 10 championships at
Holy
UCLA.
smokes.
Yeah, let me think. Yeah.
And when did he come on your radar?
Through Frosty. So I don't know that I don't think I knew of John Wooden until I went to PLU as a freshman, and then I started doing a little bit of research and that kind of thing. But yeah, one of the best.
Solid. Yeah, your list is very diverse. I've been jotting down notes about your list here. I love it. We're gonna have to revisit this list, I think, in a couple of years too, because I know mine will change for sure.
Absolutely, that's the best part. Yeah.
I think I'm on number 2 now. So
Yeah,
number 2 was a late entry for me. This is someone that has come on my radar more significantly in the last 3 or 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Again, scratching the itch of someone who's figured out a way to build a career out of something they love. Okay. And also someone that the career leading up to this is kind of uneventful, really, kind of just mediocrity. From what I could tell, I mean, I feel bad if I'm doing it disservice, but I read the IMDb, I read the Wikipedia of Mr. Les Stroud.
Oh yeah, okay, Survivor Man.
So he's my filmmaker on the list. I was trying to grab a fitness coach. I was trying to grab an influencer, a author, or whatnot. But he's my video guy right now because he, in a lot of his recent YouTube videos, he talks a lot about the camera equipment, how he shot stuff, why he shot stuff. He talks a lot about why he fought for things to be in episodes. So first off, for people who don't know, Les Stroud is the original Survivor Man, the original guy going out in the woods, filming himself trying to survive for 5 or 7 days. There was another gentleman that came later in life that's a little more better looking, a little more made for TV, but then again, the episode lost a lot of integrity because a lot of it was staged.
Yeah, it went with a crew.
He's very open about that. Yeah, film crew, sleeping in hotels,
eating Cliff Bars
Cliff Bars, and Les has been he's been on the Joe Rogan podcast a couple of times, and it's not how I found him, but that's how I really got to know him.
Yeah. I spent so much time watching his episodes on TV with a roommate at the time with my buddy Kurt, and we would watch Survivor Man, and it would be back to back episodes and be like, oh shoot, we just watched 3 hours of Survivor Man. And he's funny. He had to do it all himself, and any of those B-roll shots, he had to like set up the camera, walk away, and then walk all the way back and pick up the camera. And he's on these remote.
I love the blunders.
The blunders are great. Oh my gosh! And if anybody's ever held a video camera, like you think you go in with a plan, and then all of a sudden you got mist on your screen, or you got this or that, or it just never works out exactly how you like. And he's doing all of that in front of our eyes in a remote location while he's trying to survive.
Yes, and one of the things that I love about him too is he's a really good storyteller. And the reason I know this is because earlier this year he started releasing commentary episodes where he'll sit down and watch early episodes of Survivor Man, watch himself on the laptop, and he'll pause the thing and talk about, okay, he had to cut this out, but this was really important to this episode. And he'll add a whole bunch of stuff that really adds a lot of context to the episodes. And I'm not going to lie, these director's commentaries, I think he only has about half a dozen out, but I've literally rewatched them 3 or 4 times just because he's really fun to listen to. He's got a good candor. And I think it's valuable to really understand, how to live in wilderness and understand what the actual dangers are out there and how easy we have life right now. We can just go flip the sink, the running water, the heater, the air conditioner, and we have it so easy. It's so nice to see what's possible, and he does a really good job breaking it down. He's a really good teacher.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever saw the Office episode where Michael Scott goes and
yes.
and does the Survivor Man for about 3 hours, but it's very much so a tip of the cap and a nod to Survivor Man. And
now the one area that he kind of lost me, just not necessarily lost me. I'm giving him an honest shot. I'm just waiting to see something really compelling. He started a spinoff series. I believe it's called Chasing Bigfoot. The only reason he started this series is because he had an experience in Alaska where he heard something that he couldn't describe. He heard something so actually, I've lately come to understand that impactful is not a word, so I'm trying to take it out of my vocabulary. Impactful. He heard something so impactful that it changed his life forever, and it prompted him to start this spin-off series called Looking for Bigfoot or Seeking whatever it is, Bigfoot. But he heard something in the bushes, and he could only describe it as a great ape-sounding holler from the woods that kept repeating itself. And he was up in northern Alaska at the time, so.
Well, it's good because he's gonna set up his alien encounter one after this.
Oh, that's a whole other podcast right there. Don't get me started. I specifically told my wife when we moved to Nevada, I said I'm interested because Area 51 is only a couple miles from our house. So
yeah,
we'll do a whole nother alien conspiracy. That might be a whole podcast too. Conspiracy theories.
Oh yeah, no, that would be fun. That'd be fun.
But yeah, so I've yet to see anything compelling out of Bigfoot. Not to say I'm not giving him an honest shot, but yeah, he was a late entry on the list, and I love his integrity, and I love the filmmaking he's doing.
You know, speaking of Bigfoot, they have classes at WSU up in Washington at Washington State University that studies Bigfoot. So there you go.
You can get a degree in Bigfootology. What a bunch of kooks. Is that the easiest degree to get there? Is that what they... Oh my God. Basket weaving and Bigfoot.
Yeah.
All right. Huh. Yep. Do you believe in Bigfoot?
I believe in my number one.
Great.
My number one is, I mean, do you smell it?
Burying the Hendersons.
Yeah, right. No. Number one for me is Mr. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock.
I love it.
So yeah, so role models right now, for me, where I'm at in my life, like this dude is so awesome. He's so awesome, and you know you look at he's lived a life. He played at the University of Miami during their run. Now, granted, he didn't have the greatest NFL career, but then he is the epitome of turning lemons into lemonade. I mean, this dude is just phenomenal, and he does it by working his absolute tail off. And he's charismatic, and he's charming, he's good looking, all that kind of stuff. But if you look at it, his path, it's from working his tail off, and everything he does is through work. He is now a part owner in the XFL. He's like the top box office guy in movies. I was looking at that. His movies have now grossed over $10.5 billion. Anything that he's in. I mean, he is just phenomenal. He is a family man. He's now, I mean, and so the entrepreneurial style, the having the compassion for the people that are fans of him. He's launched a tequila line, and you feel extremely authentic with what he's done. Similar to like Mark Wahlberg doing Entourage and The Rock doing like Ballers. I mean, he's trying to tell his story in a way that's it's a fun Hollywood way. And he anyway, so I could just gush about him for a while. So
favorite Rock movie?
Oh my gosh. It doesn't count because he was kind of just a bit part, but the other guys with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg and The Rock and Samuel L. are partners, and they see their demise early. But yeah, that is my favorite movie that he happens to be in. But I mean, he just does the blockbusters, man. I don't know. I don't have a better way to answer it.
He does the blockbusters. He does that specific character that's predictable, but I'm never tired of it.
Right.
Kind of the hero character. Now, I will say I absolutely love when people have a sense of humor about things too. And so Pain and Gain was one of my favorite movies he did.
Oh, so good. Get it. Yeah, that one was fun.
Good choice here. Good choice.
And I like his too, like his professional mentorship too. Like, I mean, him and Kevin Hart, like Jumanji's not like my favorite thing, but I had much more appreciation for those two watching all the interview junkets and all of them two just interacting and doing the promotional stuff. Like,
for sure.
I like that way more than the actual movie or anything like that. But yeah. And I know that Kevin Hart had a pretty significant back injury after a car accident, and he just, The Rock just kind of, pulled him under his wing and got him on a workout program and all that kind of stuff. And now Kevin Hart's just, living his life too. And it's just, I don't know. I can see him being incredibly infectious in such a positive, wonderful way. And so, when Dwayne listens to this podcast and then we become, best friends and stuff, this is where this is where it all started.
For sure. And he should be honored. He's number one on your list. So.
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. His work ethic is phenomenal. It's second to none. Obviously, if you want to look like The Rock, there's a couple other things you could do extra that would help. But if you want to look like The Rock, you just got to work out, 5-6 days a week for 30 years. That's it. It's real simple.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean, he's been working out since he's more ripped at 10 than I ever will be.
Mm-hmm.
Helps to be Samoan too.
Well, and yeah, I mean, so he has Samoan descent, which usually, if we were going to categorize, it's not necessarily the most svelte physique, and so to be as cut as he is, it takes a tremendous amount of work and discipline and diet, and again, though, focus on what he's working at, and if that happens to be diet, or if that happens to be what his workouts and timings and rest and things like that, like he just works himself better at everything he does.
Now, there was a big push for him to throw his name in the hat for the 2020 presidential elections. Was that something that you'd consider? If he threw his name in the hat, would he get your vote?
No, I do believe we're not going politics, but I would love some younger blood in our politics on the national level. But I do believe that he is a problem solver, and he puts phenomenal people around him that can solve problems. So, I don't see him for 2020, but I could see him being a leader in this country at some point.
That's interesting, because the role of president is designed as such where you have power, but you don't have as much as a lot of people think you do. So for that reason alone, I thought he would have got your vote, just knowing that, you're voting for him, but also you're voting for the people that he's going to surround himself with.
Right.
So that's interesting.
All right, dude, you're killing me. What's number one for you?
I think you probably guess it. Multi-talented person, also someone who's built a career 10 times over based on just scratching his own itch, finding his own avenue to pursue what interests him, Mr. Joe Rogan.
Nice, dude. He's the guy's Oprah.
Yes. Yeah. Guy's Oprah.
He's so good.
For those that don't know, he started out, teaching Taekwondo. He moved to Hollywood to pursue an acting career that transitioned also into a flourishing stand-up comedy career.
Yep.
UFC commentator, and the podcast started on accident. Started out with just him and his buddy doing live streams, and the thing started growing, and they started taking it more seriously. And he's another gentleman too that is just put in the long-term work, and I like that. I don't like these. We live in a shortcut generation. He's someone that admits, he's like, if you want to do a podcast, start one now and then keep working on it for 10 years. Because his is going for, he's on 1,600 episodes now.
Yeah.
But again, he built it around just talking about what he wants to talk about, talking about things that interest him, talking to people that interest him. And not one of the things I really like about him is he's not opposed to talking to people that differ from his opinion.
Yep.
And that's really helped shape me too, because I used to get not upset, but I used to get kind of, a weird kind of like, uncomfortable feeling if I'm talking to someone that, is completely different view of whether it be politics or just anything than me. I used to get this uncomfortable feeling. I could never figure out why, but he helped me develop that muscle to where you can be friends with someone and not 100% agree with what they're doing, because I mean, me and you, for example, we don't share a lot of the same interests in a lot of like sporting and stuff. And
well, okay. So what you're getting at too, if I can,
yeah,
so we have it is much easier as human beings to understand, read, stay with something, listen to opinions that are familiar and are consistent with what we already think, feel, or believe.
so you end
And
up surrounding yourself with that kind of that echo.
exactly. And if you see it with your social media feeds, with all your other, like, yeah, I totally agree with that. Or, oh yeah, I can read this whole article because it's in line with what I'm thinking. You don't get as much fatigue. If you're reading something, if you're reading an article that disagrees and has excellent points of everything that you believe, you will become more fatigued quicker than you will if you're reading something that you absolutely believe or is right in line with your thoughts and the way that you look at the world. So it is, I mean, to your point, I mean, it is a muscle that you have to exercise, and I think is one of the most vital things right now is having the empathy and then the interest and then the patience to listen to someone who you disagree with. I think it's just
Exactly.
absolutely vital right now. Great pick. I love Joe Rogan. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's someone that's he's also not afraid to admit his blunders and his mistakes, and he's built the trust with his audience to where they know things aren't censored.
Yeah.
They know that they're listening to a 3-hour. He's notorious for having 3-hour podcasts. They know that they're going to get into some topics that sometimes should be edited. If you have a PR agent, peeking over your shoulder there. And he's come on subsequent episodes and been like, well, back in episode 1500, we were drinking and we were smoking pot, and I probably shouldn't have said this, but this was the intent. I love the transparency, and I get a weird feeling when I listen to stuff these days that are too polished and too buttoned down. Now, there's certain type forms of media that I love to listen to that I need it to be cleaned and polished and whatnot. I don't want to. I don't really care to listen to some 3-hour banter on some of the people I listen to. But for him, I love the transparency. I love the uncensoredness, and that it builds a trust that you're getting the real him.
Yeah. I really like your list. I need to do a little bit of learning. I think that's one of the coolest parts about these lists is that you bring up people that I don't necessarily know or would have picked, and so it gives me some things to learn. So I think that's really cool.
Just to jump back real quick, another thing that it really stood out to me that it has taught me and has kind of shaped me, and this is something that I think every guy needs in their life, and I'm hoping that you'd be comfortable doing this for me too. But he's not afraid to call people out on their stuff, on their shortcomings. He got a little flack for fat shaming a few of his friends, but not fat shaming him in a mean way. Just saying, hey, this is not right. This is not how you should be living your life. This is not healthy. There's easy steps you can take. I'm here to go with you, and that kind of openness is something that I haven't had in my life, and I understand the importance of it now after having to listen to him for so many years. He had one of the most difficult talks with Brendan Schaub. It was actually one of the episodes that I couldn't believe I was listening to, and as I was listening to it, he had a conversation with Mr. Brendan Schaub while he was still fighting in the UFC. He just came off another hard loss, and live on the podcast, he calls him out. And he's like, "Bro," he's like, "I don't think your heart's really in fighting." And fighters, to be successful, you have to 100% of the time you have to walk around with mentality that I'm the next Conor McGregor, I'm the next Mike Tyson, and to say that to someone and to crush someone like that on the air live, that kind of transparency and that kind of friendship was that impact that he had on Brendan's life And to do that live on the podcast is something that I was like, man, I wish everybody had a friend to call them out on their stuff, because I could have used you 10 years ago. I could have used you 5 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point too about like the fat shaming thing, like we obviously don't want to get into fat shaming people, but at the same time, what you said at the tail end of that, which was these are some simple steps that you can take. It's not saying it's not saying, hey, fatty, these are simple. It is simple to get better. It's no. He's saying that there are some simple steps to help with incremental growth. Like none of us are perfect. We just need to set steps and goals and things in place where we can make incremental growth.
It could be fat. It could be alcoholism. It could be anything.
Exactly.
I care about you enough to call you out on your shit, and it's
exactly. And not to discourage or to say that where you're at, it's easy to just fix it, but there are easy fixes to help you down the path of getting better, or whatever it is.
Love it.
Yeah, man. All right, I got a couple of honorable mentions I want to bounce off. So with your Grant Cardone, I will raise you a Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yep.
And in my Steve Jobs kind of line, I was either going Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, and just because I think the dude's awesome, and he's a guy that's like, okay, well, and now granted, does it help that he's brilliant? Sure, but he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna work on PayPal, and then I'm gonna think that electric cars is probably the future, so let's learn how to do that. So he just did it, and then he's like, you know what? With NASA shutting down and no more space program and all that kind of stuff, I better learn rocket propulsion. And so he just does it. And he's a guy that he had the auto industry saying, you're nuts. Can you imagine General Motors and Ford and all these big heavy hitters coming to you and being like, stop, you don't know what you're doing. And to still
go ahead.
To have the stones to be like, I disagree. I disagree. And to just do it. And now, I mean, he's just a phenomenal guy. Now, does he do everything right? Of course not. But he's, he had, in my opinion, he has courage. He's scared and going anyway.
Yeah. If you're not first to an industry, you better be light years ahead of what is currently being offered. If you're just incrementally better in the automotive industry, you're gonna fizzle out. But if you're light years ahead of what everyone else is putting out for that kind of technology, then you're bound for success. And shoot, he's digging a tunnel under your city too, by the way.
Seriously. I mean, the guy is just making things happen. A couple others. Actually, I had the pleasure of listening to this one live, which is Maya Angelou.
Oh yeah.
She is phenomenal. I had a chance of listening to her in Seattle at the Paramount. She was incredible. It was a gift from my mom and my girlfriend at the time. Went to the Paramount and listened to Maya Angelou live. That was insane. Another one was Nelson Mandela. Talk about going through some stuff and keeping his eye on the prize. Another just kind of a fun one, because I think it would just be a great person in my life is Justin Timberlake. I already mentioned that he's my heterosexual man crush, but a guy who has reinvented kind of who he is and is in the limelight and seems to be a great husband and just a guy that can handle all of the teeny bopper years, as well as then elevating his career and becoming who he is. I mean, that
kid fame, stardom.
Right. I mean, I can't even imagine. And then the other one I had, it's probably a little bit polarizing. I don't care. Is Barack Obama. I mean, the guy was an incredible leader and speaker, as well as brilliant. And, he graduated number 1 in Harvard Law. Like, you can disagree with his politics, but the dude was a stud.
Yeah. He provided a comfort level, which is what you want out of a president. And yeah, we're not going to get into politics, but yeah, when you think of presidential characteristics, good Lord, that guy exuded that.
Yeah. So those are my honorable mentions.
I like it. Solid list, man.
Oh, next week. Oh, one more. I'm so sorry. This one was kind of just an oddball flyer off the wall, but was Leonardo da Vinci.
Oh, That was close. I try to guess before you do.
Oh, what'd you say?
Pee Wee Herman.
Oh yeah, no, close.
Leonardo da Vinci. All right.
Yeah, just kind of all over the place. If you will, he was more of a creative Elon Musk of his time, right? I mean, with all the art and but also extremely intelligent and working how things work, and yeah. So
that one's good. It's starting to push into the list that I was going to hit you with there. The Lord and Savior, the Gandhi.
Yeah, right.
Good, but it's starting to get tipped over to that territory.
And what do I know? I mean, all I know from Leonardo da Vinci is Dan Brown books with it. Tom Hanks was in the movies. So what do I really know?
He could have been a dick. He could have hit children or something. You never know about him.
Right. Exactly.
Oh man,
I could have thrown Ty Cobb up there. I mean, he's just
too funny.
Terrible individual.
My pick with Les Stroud was an interesting one. The feeling and the desire and the primordial drive to get outdoors and survive. I don't know if it's exclusive to being a guy or a man, but it's something that I think about almost every single day. And I think a lot of it has to do with the way we live our lives nowadays in the year 2020.
Yep.
If you're listening to this in 2040, is just living inside of these boxes and making your income staring at these computer screens. And there's a big portion of the population of men that are just thriving to tap into that primordial nerve there and get out in the wilderness and
absolutely. Well, and I have to jump in, but so also with this pandemic thing, right? So a couple of thoughts on this. So we moved to LA to like experience all of LA, and then most of it we've spent in the age of Corona. And I'm on the 8th floor of a high rise. Like, I have 2 elevators to get me down. And like, if this is a terrible situation and I got to get out, I was talking to my wife about that, like with
you're going out the window. I know you.
Yeah, with the protests and then with COVID and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, I can't go out the back door, jump in my truck, and drive into the fields. Like I am stuck, and that is not an awesome feeling. And so, having that desire to be out in the woods and to survive and be able to catch fish and build a tent and have a fire and all that kind of stuff is pretty incredible. And I think all of us need to know those skills. And I think you and I both know, some people that are, Eagle Scouts and have some phenomenal skills in that vein. But at the same time, like I think it is vital to have, some of those skills and be able to pass them down and help each other out. I don't know.
No, I think we grew up fairly similar, being that you lived in Leavenworth a good portion of your life there. Mm-hmm. We spent a lot of time in the woods. We backed up to a green belt. We spent a lot of our childhood out in the woods, building forts, literally building lean-to forts, just like I was watching Les Stroud today, digging holes, drinking creek water. We probably shouldn't have done that, but we never got too sick out of there, but had our BB guns out in the woods. That's how we grew up.
Yeah.
And it's a far cry from how you're living right now, and it's a far cry from how I'm living right now.
Yeah, this Fiji water is a little bit different than the creek water, right?
I've got a 5 times distilled water purifier in my fridge, but no, it's just this romantic feeling of just being out in nature that is. I need to figure out a way to nurture that in the next year or so. I don't know if that's a camping trip or a trekking trip. Yep. We did get out and go hiking on Sunday.
Yep.
The wife was on me. I was again complaining about the workload. As I told you before we started the podcast, I took a social media break for the last 4 days. Only checked it just for pertinent messages and whatnot. But Sunday morning we carved out time. We went to Mount Charleston, did one of the hikes. There's a lot of territory out there, man. And then we did a hike that it was climactic at the top. There was definitely a climax at the top, but the climax was also disheartening too, because it was about 2.5 miles up and it was just a consistent straight climb. Like my quads were burning. I've got pretty good endurance. You get to the top, you got a really good view. It's a great payoff, But the disheartening part was it also leads off into 4 other trails, which go on for like 11 more miles.
Right.
And as we're sitting there, we got a pretty early start. We were up at the top by like 8:30, but we're seeing people already come down from these other hikes. I'm like,
what?
One, I felt bad about getting, they probably got up here at 3 or 4 in the morning to beat the sunrise.
Right.
2, they covered 4 times the amount of distance we did. So as accomplished as I felt, it was disheartening, but it was really good to be out in nature, and that fit really well with all the episodes. I've been binging on Les Stroud lately, all the Survivor episodes.
No, this is good. This is leading into our topic for next week, which I think is really, really good. But one thing I wanted to talk about too, because this weekend we had so it's been a just crazy heat wave down here, Southern California. And we had the chance, the wife and I drove out the PCH up north of Malibu and just like pulled off on the side of the road and watched the sunset. And it's a place that we're going to take you guys next time you're in town, because there's this cool like sand dune basically that you can climb all the way up. We'll get the drone out, we'll do all kinds of fun stuff. But it was wild because it got up to about 113 during the day. So we were doing a lot of touring in the AC car. But when we stopped there and watching the sunset, it was about 80 degrees and we're watching the waves come in, which was phenomenal. But it was something I've never experienced before, which was if you're standing there and there's no wind, it's 80 degrees. But if you're getting a little bit of wind from the west off of the water, I mean, it's almost less than 70. It's almost chilly that you're getting this sea breeze. Sure. You're kind of like, oh, wow, okay, that's kind of refreshing. And then it'll stop and you'll get the wind from the east. And it is like sandblasting desert sauna of north of 100 degrees. So you're like standing in this 80 degree temperature that nothing's happening, and all of a sudden you'll get a nice cool breeze, and then all of a sudden you'll get a 100 degree like you're opening a door to a sauna, almost blow you over kind of wind. And it was I've never experienced it before. It was pretty wild while you're watching this magnificent sunset. So it was pretty cool.
That's one of the reasons why we fell in love with Cabo San Lucas, because it's desert climate, but it's on the beach, so it's not quite as taxing as like Cancun or even where you live, or Florida, where it's just you walk out the door and you feel like you need to take a shower.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cabo's fairly dry. Even on the most humid times of year, it's pretty dry and it's pretty tolerable. And that's one of the reasons why we keep going back there. And we're actually thinking about going back there real soon. I'll talk to you about that after the podcast.
Okay, I'm convinced. You twist my arm. Okay. All right. So next week, summer is coming to an end, dude.
It is.
So
I feel robbed.
Yeah. So I think that's good because, no, I don't think that's good. But our topic is our top 5 summer activities. Because really, I don't know about you, but 2020, we kind of felt cheated a little bit out of our summer.
Totally. And I think this will be a fun list to put together of our top 5 favorite summer activities. You can draw from years past. You can live vicariously through next year, whatever you think. But I think that'll be a fun list there.
Okay. All right. I'm in. And
I feel like we are going to get some feedback as far as our role models we had today. Leo, let us know in the comments, did we hit it home? Did we miss someone? I love discovering new people, as I've done through you and as I've done through a few of the feedback I've gotten off the podcast we've already launched. So keep it coming.
Yeah, and I've got some great feedback through text. Some of my buddies sending me like, "Are you out of your mind? It was the dumbest list I have ever heard. I was yelling through my phone. You forgot this person, and your albums was ridiculous. So it was it's a lot of fun. So keep that stuff coming. We love it. Yeah, man. PowerFall project, brother.
PowerFall project. Episode 7 in the books, man.
In the books. You have a great week. We'll do it again.
Catch you next week.
All right, brother.